like everyone else, I'm working remotely. I'm here at home. So if there is a lot of background noise or I get garbled or something like that, please just let Catralia know or send me a quick. With that, I'm going to go ahead and move in. So we're talking about working remotely today, being productive and connected. This is a perfect example. We're on Zoom today. Everybody's here. We have learned a little about limitations. There's a max of 300 people. We have learned about the best ways, some best practices already about sound and speaking, about how we should direct message people. And there's a lot that goes into it. And we're already starting to learn these things. Here's what we're going to talk about today. What is expected during this time? So what is expected of you as well as what you can expect of others. Being transparent with your boss about constraints. We all have things at home that might be disruptive. Like I said, I have somebody else here in the house with me. You might be home with children. You might live in a small space. Who knows? But we're going to talk about that. Comply with your company's policies. So looking at things like security policies, confidentiality, technology guidelines, how you use the technology, how you use the software that's on your computer. Again, security, so physical security of your computer or any other paperwork. Separate work and home. We're talking about a mental separation here. So really taking the time and learning the skills to leave work at work and keep home at home when work is at home. Support your mental and physical health. We've all heard a lot about this. It's just more important right now in the time of COVID-19. Staying connected. So I see, this is wonderful. I'm looking to the right here because that's where my chat function is. I'm looking to the right here and I see all of you saying good morning to each other and asking each other how you're doing. That is wonderful. You're staying connected. You're making an effort to stay connected. I can tell that you all appreciate one another and are grateful for one another. That's important to keep. And lastly, being patient with yourself and empathetic with your colleagues. Everything is about compassion. All those things Catralia told you that I'm interested in and that I do, a lot of it comes down to compassion, being patient and having compassion. So being patient with yourself and empathetic with your colleagues. As we move forward through this, if you have questions, please just direct message them privately to Catralia and she'll put all those together and then we'll stop here and there and start to answer some of the questions. All right, thanks. So what's different about working remotely? What's positive, what's challenging? I'm not gonna ask you to inundate everybody with the answers, but I know for me, one of the things that is really, really wonderful is I get to have my space. What you see behind me is actually a photo of my living room. I'm not in the living room right now, but I get to have access to that space whenever I want to get into that space. I have a small private space where I can go about my work in a focused manner. That's what's positive. But what about challenging? The same kind of idea. I don't have anybody else here with me working right beside me. The other person's working on the other side of the house. One of the things I missed most when I started working from home was just the camaraderie of my very, very good friends. I almost went through a bit of a grieving process. So that's challenging. The social side of it is very, very challenging. What's different? No commuting. You all live in LA. I live in the Bay Area. Not having to commute is a wonderful, wonderful thing. Able to focus. Yes, you're more able to focus. I'm more able to focus. Again, I'm here with you. I have a small space. I have a closed door. A lot of people don't have that on a day-to-day basis. Creating new routine, structure, and delineation between work and home. We're going to talk more about this, but that takes a lot of work and a lot of discipline. It's a really wonderful thing when you get it to work, but it could absolutely wreak havoc in your life if you can't get it to work. Having a designated workspace, a new designated workspace. We have everything laid out around us really nicely when we're at the office. We can have two screens sometimes. You have just the right lighting. You've spent all this time getting all these things together so that you're in a comfortable space, you know where everything is, and you can reach everything really easily. That's changed when you started working from home. Not having colleagues physically present. If you're like me, I like to yell, not yell angrily, but just say, hey, so-and-so, what about this thing? How did that research, what was the result of that research? I like to be able to ask those sorts of questions. A lot of environments I see, again, you all have a highly collegial environment. You probably do a lot of that. You probably are just turning to people and asking them for their opinion, their idea, the water cooler sort of talk, and catching up on what's going on in each other's lives, like children going off to college, things like that. Changes in responsibilities and priorities. Easy, kids are at home. Kids are at home. We may have to make 3 meals a day for other people in the household. If you take care of somebody who's older than you or take care of somebody who's younger than you, now that is a 24/7 thing. There's no break for daycare or anything like that. And then experiencing technology issues. Getting things started can be really, really difficult, especially meetings like this. Somebody's trying to get in contact with you, and you just got up and you went to the bathroom. That's all. So you left your phone here, your laptop's here, everything's here. There's no way for people, if you're at the office, people can just kind of peer over and see if you're at your desk or not. They have no idea if you're at your desk or not a lot of the time. And so getting the technology up and running and using the technology properly, that's something that can be a little bit difficult. So expectations, talking about what's expected of you. This is something that your supervisors and you should be talking about. This is something that moving forward after today, there will be more of a framework to talk about. What you see here, responsibilities, priorities, procedural changes, accessibility, communication, collaboration. I like to think of these things as a charter, more or less. If possible, it's great to have an actual document where you list these 6 things out. And it's not so much that it needs to be a formal document, but just where you can sit down, maybe in an email, and just be clear on what your responsibilities are and how they might have changed due to your new work environment. The priorities change between work environments as well as before COVID, after COVID. With you all, we're running into May and the summer, so you have terms that are coming up, closing and opening. How do those priorities change with students not being in the facilities? Accessibility. So what am I going to have access to? I have limited access to certain files because of security and confidentiality issues. So how are we going to work around that? What is that expectation? The communication. This is vital. Communication, collaboration together. Let me put them together. How you communicate with each other, how you collaborate with each other. These are things that really should be established and ideally written down. So people prefer different modes of communication. Some people really like texting. Some people like Slack. Some people like instant messenger. All these different modes. There should be an established tool for, I'm going to say, asynchronous communication. So being able to just send something and wait for somebody to get something back to you. If it's large, a lot of people use email. If it's fairly detailed. If it's just quick, some people like to use a messenger tool. If it's urgent, a lot of people pick up the phone. They're all different tools that you can use, but try to put those things together and document them so that everybody has the opportunity to get what they need from IT, as well as they know how to reach everybody. You might also want some rules around communication. So, So if somebody does step away for a certain amount of time, that they set their computer to away, or during the workday, if you're going to be away from your computer for more than 15 minutes or half an hour, take your phone with you and have your phone ready, that sort of a thing. So it's really important to, like I said, look at these 6 things as sort of a charter to get it down and understand what is expected of you and what's expected of your teammates. I'm just checking in. Catralia, have you seen any questions or comments so far?
Not so far,
All right.
right now, not the information provided, but just comments that are relating to the fact that, yeah, they miss the human contact. It's really something when the disruptions from the ice cream man comes blaring through and you're on a Zoom call. Yeah, so the disruptions are another thing also that, you know, it's a challenge for us and how to overcome that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Side note, you mentioned the ice cream man. I was really surprised when the ice cream man came down the street 2 weeks ago because I thought, who's going to go outside? So, um, it was odd. That being said, I'll continue on. Being transparent with your manager about constraints. Again, we have kids, we have ice cream trucks in the background, things like that. Um, I took an interview this morning with somebody and he had to stop and explain to me that he had this dog and this was happening and this was happening. So these things happen. You need to understand what those limitations are and be able to talk to your manager and your teammates about them. Help them understand, okay, I have this many children at home, this many pets. I have a senior who lives with me who has dementia, and so they tend to wander in and out, those sorts of things, which is a real situation. I had that situation with somebody a few weeks ago. And one of my mentors, her husband has dementia, and he would kind of wander back and forth. So these things happen. It's real life. It's good to let your coworkers and your manager, especially your manager, know that there are some of these limitations in your life and that it may affect some things. Explaining your environment, your work environment configuration. It's really great to let people know sort of what your layout's like, what physical limitations you might have. There is in your packet, you should have a digital packet there. It talks about office ergonomics. And I'm going to really quickly share this with you so that you can see. So you should see here, handout A goes into office ergonomics and the way that your chair and other objects should be oriented, ideally. So there's no one to come, there's no ergonomics expert who can come and do all these things for you. So refer to this handout A and try to get yourself situated in a way that's really comfortable. Excuse me, I'm going to go ahead and flip back to the presentation now. So that's really important. Get your environment right. And then feel free to show people or tell people what your environment looks like, because sometimes you don't have direct access to certain things. If you're in the wide open, you can show people, I'm in the wide open and these are the things happening behind me. You might see this happen, you might see that happen. And then lastly, be cautious about overcommitting until you reestablish your standard level of productivity. Every time there's a change, a major change in life at all, we have to figure out again how to be productive. We're not machines, and so you can't just pick us up and take us out and put us down someplace else, and we just keep doing the same thing. You have to figure out the right keyboard for you. That's something that's small. I mean, just simply typing, that can affect a lot of things, affect the way that your wrists feel, where your mouse is, all these sorts of things. They all affect your productivity and how quickly you can get things done. There's a ramp up time, nothing wrong with a ramp up time. Just be honest about it and try not to commit to doing a whole lot of work and knocking something out in a quick period until you know that you can do that. Complying with your company's policies. These are specific to you. This particular piece of the presentation are things that are very specific and very deep and detailed, and they need to be addressed with your manager directly. So attendance, what does that look like? You're at home, so you're back and forth. Do you just need to be within earshot of your computer in case somebody emails you, as long as you're getting the rest of your work done? Are you expected to be in front of your computer for 6 to 8 hours a day working? What does the attendance look like? Social media. What's the social media policy? Can you be on Instagram and Facebook and all these other places? Is that okay, especially if you're using your own computer at home? Confidentiality, I talked about that just a little bit earlier. I don't know how much confidentiality there is between your home environment, how much confidential data is required between your home environment and your work environment, but be cognizant of how that data travels. There are some pieces of data that have to be encrypted when they go across the internet. You might have to have a VPN. It goes along with data protection as well. Your employee code of conduct. Your employee code of conduct is not suspended because you're working from home. So the language that you use, just because you are talking to people online, you are using instant messaging, those sorts of things, texting, that does not decrease the level of professionalism that you should use. You should continue acting as a professional like you're in your office. Be your best self, do what you know is right. Anti-discrimination and harassment, those go along with it. Don't say things you don't want spread all across the New York Times. It's that simple. Don't treat people in a discriminatory way. That's a whole other training around discrimination and harassment. I'm sure you all have had it, but all those things still apply. Just because your environment has changed, that doesn't mean that your relationships and your priorities at work have changed. More about technology guidelines. This is something you want to definitely take up with your manager. So do you have the required hardware? Required hardware, we're talking about, are you on the right OS? Do you have the VPN software? As you see mentioned there as well. There are certain applications you might need, such as Microsoft Word or Acrobat. Some things that require registration, purchase and registration, you need to work that out with your manager, so your manager can work it out with IT and make sure you get everything you need on your computer. And this harkens back to the productivity issue. You can't be productive until you know you have everything on your computer. And sometimes that'll take a week, 2 weeks, because there's a certain type of file that you only deal with, a certain, say, large spreadsheet file that you deal with once a month for a report or something like that. You go to work on it and boom, you realize I don't have the proper software to do this. So go back and forth with your manager, with IT, make sure you have everything you need. Don't be afraid to ask for what you need. Don't be afraid to ask for what you need. I will probably say that a few more times. Determine if you have adequate bandwidth or speed. If you are working on cable, you're probably fast enough. If you're working on DSL, you're probably fast enough. Just make sure, get the requirements from your tech team as to what the minimum speed is, your minimum bandwidth from your cable provider or your phone provider. Find that out, and if it's not fast enough, again, speak with your manager about the next steps to get those things moving and to get you up to speed. Very, very important. If you're in a pinch, those of you who have wireless hotspots on your mobile phones, they really help out a lot in a pinch. I've used that before when, say, my power went out. I live in a really old building. The power may have gone out. I hop on my hotspot there. So keep that in mind as well. Your organization support processes. So your support team is going to be really important right now. So understand how to enter a ticket, understand which phone numbers you should call if you have a problem. The big issue is when you have a problem on your computer's not working, typically IT can come over to your desk or somebody will show up and say, okay, let's see what's happening here. Well, if your computer's not working, there's no way for them to assess your issue. Excuse me, I'm just checking the chat here. There's no way for them to assess the issue. So make sure you have phone numbers on hand. Make sure you can reach them that way as well. I'm going to stop for just a moment. I see a question just popped up. People on our team have different skill sets and equipment at home. I get asked to do extra work because my colleagues need training. What's the best way to deal with this? I think the best way to deal with this is similar to what you do in the office, which is you'd say, okay, you need training on this. Let's do this together. You can use Zoom. Zoom allows you to share your screen. Zoom even allows you to take control of someone else's screen. And you walk them through that. A lot of people will say, oh, but it's going to slow me down to have to teach this person this thing. It's better if I just do it myself. They don't have these skills. That's something that it's a sacrifice. It's a hit immediately for the immediate future, but it's a gain for the long-term future. So I would say use Zoom and walk the person through exactly what the skills are. You could have Zoom can show both of your screens. If you have two screens, you can show everything happening on one screen. Lots of ways to do it. If you have some specific deeper questions around that, go ahead and send a note to Catralia and I'll see what I can do to give you some more answers. Yes, and also I see something about power failure occurs and your remote computer disconnects. I personally, I work from home a lot. I worked from home a lot before this. I have a backup battery that I plug everything into, my computer as well as my my cable modem. They're both plugged into that. That's how I prevent everything from dropping when that happens. All right. Okay, I'm going to move on next. Establishing your workplace. Have a designated workspace. That is really, I'm really loving the chat with you all. You all are so involved in really helping each other. You've got the connection and collaboration down. Establishing your workspace. Having a designated workspace. It's really important to have a spot where everything is and everything is accessible, and you don't have to completely wipe it down and take things away and then put everything back the next day. That will totally ruin your productivity. So it's nice to be able to have those things available right away. Organizing your workspace before you start each day. This is something that we probably did when we were in the office as well as when we're out of the office. It's really important to be able to come in, get things started right away. Some people, it's a to-do list, a five item, 10 item to-do list. Other people, it might just be their laptop and just being able to put their laptop down in a place and have it ready. So try to organize that before you start your day. Some people might say, okay, I work at the dining room table. If you work at the dining room table, I would say try to put everything maybe to one side. When you're done for the day, maybe put a towel over it or a sheet or something like that over the area where you're working so that it's out of your line of sight. You're not just going to look over and see a client's name on a paper or a student's name on a paper or something like that. Use technology to block out noise and distractions. If you have headphones, that's great. Some people have noise canceling headphones, which are really, really convenient. But headphones are great. Having earplugs if you need to, that works really well. Not necessarily for this, but with disturbances maybe or distractions behind you, earplugs work wonderfully well. Acknowledge common challenges in your workspace. That's super important because what you can do is, excuse me for a second, there's some noise in the background here. Acknowledge common challenges with your workmates. Try to figure out how each other is working. What works in your area, what doesn't work in your area. Get ideas. Take things back and forth. And then this last point, set up an ergonomically correct workstation. Absolutely. Y'all can't see all of me here, but I'm sitting here in my chair. Both feet are planted on the floor. My legs are at a 90-degree angle. My thighs are at a 90-degree angle to my legs, my lower legs, and I've got room to move my elbows. You're at my eyesight. So these are all things to take into account. Like I said, you have the handout that talks about ergonomics. give that a look and see what you can do to help your workstation be a little bit better. I'm just double checking the chat. Okay, let's jump into some more questions before we move on. Petralia, what do we have?
Okay, here. So we do have a few more questions. There is a question as to how to deal with frustrations with the tech issues, problems with the internet, problems with the VPN working correctly. Um, and the list goes on. I had an issue where, as you know, I was with IT this morning. 300 capacity was just not going to be enough. I couldn't get the polling up. I mean, you know, so dealing with those frustrations, because I've heard it said, and it's very true, we're building a plane while we're actually flying it. And so this is really making things difficult to do. I'm getting emails now from those who were not able to enter in because we had already reached the capacity of 300. You know, it's those sort of things. And so I guess basically what to do, how to deal with that kind of frustration.
The first, I think the most important thing is flexibility, being willing to be flexible and knowing things are going to go wrong. This is life. This is part of the resilience piece, is being that whole idea of be like water. This thing is going to happen. Some things might go wrong. I just kind of have to roll with it. And we say roll with it, I don't mean to completely give up control. It's about controlling the things that you can. So we don't have capacity for 300 people. That's okay. The other side of it, that's okay. We can do it again because we don't have to herd people into a conference room. It's not such a labor to get everybody together again. They just have to turn on their computer and come here. So there's an upside and a downside to that. But it's about being flexible and being inventive. Like you said, you spoke with IT. I think from the time we spoke yesterday, you actually got the number bumped up a little bit. Those sorts of things. Now at home, when you're running into problems with internet, VPN, those sorts of things, again, this is about being not just flexible, but being innovative. So most of us have internet at home. We use the internet at home for our leisure purposes, for our personal email, things like that. Maybe thinking about, okay, this is what I've got. I only have these things here. Let's see what I can do. I want to try to do this and this and this and this. My spouse is a social worker, which there's a lot of confidential information, a whole lot of clinical notes. Sometimes I have to make my clinical notes in Microsoft Word because the primary system, the VPN for the primary system is not working. So he makes notes in Word and then he transfers them over later on. Yes, David, thank you. I'm going to mention that. Remind me if I don't mention it. So that's my response to that particular question, Catralia.
All right. The second question talks about setting up your office space. And so, you know, the reimbursement side of that, the right kind of chair, you know, which is one of my issues, as well as maybe the right kind of keyboard. And, you know, for most of us, we're on laptops.
Mm-hmm.
And those of us who are on those Chromebooks, some of us are having some visual challenges. So I know I've gone to IT. There are some things that you just may not be able to, you know, get reimbursed, but it's worth, I think, you know, asking if the screen is too small, can I get a second monitor? Or something, you know, where I can actually see it in a size that I can work with. Also, for the keyboard issues, if using a laptop keyboard for me has been difficult, what I've done is I've requested a wireless keyboard and as well as mouse to go with it so that I could maneuver easier. But maybe there's some other suggestions as far as, I'm thinking about possible ADA issues that may develop down the road or that people may be currently experiencing, that they may need to have reimbursement from the district, or forget reimbursement, have the district to purchase it for them under those type of ADA accommodations.
So the first part, I'm working a little bit backwards, around ADA issues and district purchases, reimbursements, those sorts of things. I am definitely not qualified to speak on those because that's very specific to the district. And if there's anybody on the line who knows about it, please let Catralia know, and maybe we can just make a second for you to speak on that. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, yes, the keyboard and mouse idea. For those of us who have laptops and we're often looking down like this, get yourself a keyboard and mouse. If you have one at home, go ahead and get one. Wired is fine. Pull out the dictionary and the encyclopedia, all those things. Use the books as a stand to get your laptop to where you want it to be. That's the poor man's solution to that. You could order a platform. There are these platforms that you can order that they have adjustable feet, adjustable legs. You could do that too, but since this is a temporary situation, cross fingers, temporary situation, it may work for you to just take some books, stack them up, and then put the laptop right on top of it until it gets to the right place for you. If, as far as chairs and tables and things like that go, my recommendation is to start working at the table where you eat. Because a lot of us spend, where you would go and have where you would sit down with somebody for an hour or two and have a conversation while you're eating, because that's going to give you a good idea of how you're comfortable. Start there, put your laptop down there, and start working there. If that's comfortable for you, then that's your baseline. If that's comfortable for you, then you can go back to your office space and start to make adjustments to your chair and your keyboard, things like that, because you know that that is your comfortable space. That's your baseline. Did I answer that?
That was great. Actually, that was a great idea. And the last one is that someone has, I think it was Victoria, let me know that some of the slides that you're showing are not in the packet that was sent through MHN by Randy. And I'm thinking it was the ergonomic ones. And so if you could get those to me, I will get it to everyone else. But some of the slides are not consistent. So just an FYI.
So the ergonomic one that I showed is actually the guide. If you look in, there's a participant guide.
That's what was sent.
Yeah, and so you'd have to go all the way to the back to page 11, and that should show your ergonomics.
Thank you.
And just let me know if that's not there, and we can send it through. You're welcome. And a gentleman here asked me to mention one thing that was really good. If you are using Zoom, if you all look at yourselves in Zoom or look at my picture, you can see on the bottom left, it says my name, Terrell Holmes. If you're using Zoom, there are ways for you to change that. People who, sometimes people come in and they'll just say T. People don't necessarily know your name in a meeting like this, 300 people. Excuse me. You can change your name. You have to go to the floating panel, go into participants, these sorts of things. I'm not going to get into the specifics of it, but it's a courteous thing to do when you go into Zoom to change your name so that people know who they're talking to and they know who's talking. Also, if you're in a staff meeting or some other mandatory meeting, it helps because people can go back and look and see who said what. As far as your name changes as you're speaking, your name will change and people can see who's saying it. All right, any other questions before we move on? No? Okay, great. Establishing a routine. This is very important. Even when you are working in the office, establishing a routine is really, really important to being able to get things done. Consistent morning routine. A lot of us will roll out of bed, just go straight to the desk and start working. It makes a difference to put a timeline around things, to put constraints around things. A lot of you probably have children or nieces, nephews. They go absolutely insane if you don't have a structure, if they don't know what time breakfast is, what they're going to have for breakfast, what time dinner is, these kinds of things. Just wild people, as you know. So it works for us as adults too. I get up at this time, I go to bed at this time. I'm going to have breakfast, then I'm going to work out, then I'm going to take a shower, and then I'm going to get dressed. Get dressed. Get up, take a shower, and get dressed. I think that is really, really vital right now. Getting out of bed, taking a shower, and getting yourself dressed makes you feel accomplished. You've already accomplished something in your day. You're ready to work. This also goes towards the idea of separating your workspace from your home space. You get up, you put on your shirt, you're ready to work. I'm here at home and I'm wearing a button up for you. This is just for you all. Typically, I'm just in a t-shirt and jeans if I'm home working by myself. You can do the same thing. You can wear what you want to wear, but change your clothes, get into a mindset. Try to get out of the pajamas if you can. Starting in your workday at consistent times. Again, give yourself expectations. Give everybody else around you expectations. I start here, I end here. It's really easy to jump in and just start working, and you work and work and work and work. I had many times when I worked in San Francisco where I'd get up in the morning and I'd start working. Next thing I know, I look up and it's past my commute time. So I call the office and say, I'm working at home. I'm working from home today. And then I'd end up working until 6 or 7 p.m. It's not good. Sometimes we have deadlines. A lot of us love what we do, but it's really important to have that consistency and to take your breaks. Taking breaks is really important to reset your mind, especially if you're going between tasks. People say they can multitask. People can't. Those of you who have studied aspects of psychology, organizational behavior, those sorts of things, you know multitasking is a myth. It really helps to take a break, to switch your brain to another task. Also, just sitting down all day. Sitting all day is a bad thing for your health. There was a study some time ago that showed that sitting straight through for 6 hours a day with breaks that are very, very short is worse for you than smoking as far as your physical health. So get up, walk around, take a break. You may not be able to walk far. Maybe do some squats, do some push-ups, I don't know, go into the kitchen and just shuffle around, whatever it is you're going to do. Take regular breaks. I keep a book right here, and for my lunch, I read a book. I'm reading 12 books this year is my goal, and 12 pleasure books, and that's what I do for my lunch. I read a book. Structure your time and have priorities. There's a whole other presentation on time management, but having priorities that are doable. You really want to make sure that you're not setting yourself up for failure. A lot of people come and they have a list of 20 things that they're going to do today. We all probably have a backlog list of 100, 200 things that are just to-dos that need to get done over the next however long. As soon as somebody says, hey, I need this, you put it on your to-do list. But coming in ready to work in the morning and having a list of 20 things, you're realistically not going to finish those 20 things. Most people probably finish 3, 5 things if you're super productive. A highly productive person will work probably 6 hours out of the 8-hour workday. If you take into account water cooler talk, checking voicemail, personal voicemail, checking email, that kind of thing, 6 out of the 8 hours. So if you're working 6 hours a day and you have a task, if you have 5 tasks that take 1 hour, that's 5 tasks you've completed with small breaks in between. So how are you going to complete 20 tasks? Just be realistic about it. What can you accomplish in 6 hours? Not 20 things. Most likely not 20 things. So structure your time, have your priorities. And those are priorities that you probably want to make sure they match your teams and your managers. Last thing on the slide, maintain regular check-ins with your manager. You have your priorities. Make sure everybody is on the same page you are with your priorities and that you know what their priorities are. Very, very important in this space, this virtual space, with us all kind of just doing our own thing and knowing what our end goal is, but not necessarily knowing who's doing what. You can't just look over and say, hey, did you get this? Are you taking care of this memo to so-and-so? You can't do that anymore. So you have to stake it out early and say, I'm going to take care of this memo. I'll have this memo by this afternoon. Maintain those responsibilities and check in with each other. It's really great if you could have a stand-up meeting first thing in the morning. Stand up. You don't have to stand up, but just a quick 10-15 minute meeting where people are talking about what they're doing and can share responsibilities. Oh, you know what? I'll take that because I have a better relationship with this person. Have those conversations. All right. Let's see. We're about halfway. Questions? Any other questions? All right. Just looking here. Great. There's a tool Julianne mentions, Julianne Cueva. Microsoft Team is a great way to connect with your team. So if that's something that you all have access to through the district, that would be great. Again, calling out, going to your IT, going to your manager, asking, how are we going to do this? I mentioned way earlier about the idea of a charter, which establishes which technologies you're going to use for communication and collaboration. Find that out. There's a recommendation right there, Microsoft Teams. All right, establishing and maintaining clear boundaries. So you have boundaries, well, 3 sets of boundaries really. You have boundaries with your team, you have boundaries with people in your household, and then you even have boundaries for yourself, which are generally the hardest to enforce. But it's important to identify and communicate what you need. Sometimes it's a reminder for yourself, just really reminding yourself that you have to take a break, maybe a little sticky or something, showing that says lunch, that sort of a thing. So for yourself, that's a boundary you're creating for yourself. I will not work past these times. I will do these things. I won't do these things. So moving into needs and requirements for other people. So these expectations around noises and noise levels. I mentioned to you when we began that there might be some other noises. Let me know if things get too loud or garbled. You want to do the same thing. Let people know. Tell them it's okay to let you know that they can't hear you. We all think, oh yeah, they'll say something, but that's not always the case. Give people the permission to communicate to you. Interruptions. I'm on a call right now. Before I went in, I basically stuck my head out the door and said, I'm going in for a call. Letting people know what's happening and where you're going to be so they don't interrupt you. Your availability. Again, I start at this time, I end at this time. I would like to take lunch at this time. Lunch is not one of those things that we can always dictate for ourselves. Sometimes we have to be flexible. Those of you who have children, I'd recommend that you figure out a time that you are going to work with your children every day, that you have to work with them, and this is your time. Designate this time. Work with your manager to designate that time. A lot of people on the same team probably all have children. Perhaps there's a time that you could coordinate where everybody takes this amount of time to do their morning check-in with their kids, this 30 minutes, and then there's an hour and a half stretch in the afternoon where everybody goes and checks their kids' homework, something like that. Just looking over, see what's going on in chat. Okay. And your shared workspace. Some people, one good friend of mine, they share their workspace and they face each other. So their monitors are like this and they can see past each other's monitors. When conference calls happen in that space, it's really, really difficult. So it's about being respectful. Who's going to own the workspace as far as when a situation happens? I have a conference call. Could you please go work at the dining room table? That's an agreement. going back to that idea of a charter, not just with your team, but with the other people in your household. How are we going to handle this? The same way that people handle doing the dishes or taking out the trash or doing laundry, same idea. Get permission from each other to communicate and have ideas about what's going to happen when one person or the other really needs to communicate via telecommuting means. And lastly, creating strong boundaries. Put them down. I keep going back to this idea of a charter. Put it down, communicate it, make sure everybody's on the same page. Bettina, letting my kids know what times I have meetings and what is the best time to help them with school assignments. The other times they won't work on things on their own that don't require help. There you go. So Bettina's got to start on this. She has a good idea. She's already set her boundaries and has a plan. So continuing on establishing and maintaining boundaries. Clear delineations between work and home. I mentioned earlier the idea of I have this workspace, and when I'm done with it, I'm just going to cover it up. That's it. My laptop, my paperwork, etc. I'm going to throw a towel over it. I'm going to throw a sheet over it. That sort of a thing. My workspace, you can't see it because this wonderful Zoom background, I have a door. When I'm out of here, I close the door. It's that simple. I try to leave here by 6 p.m. I have my dinner with my spouse. I'll probably sit down on the sofa, read a bit, watch the latest episode of The Good Wife, and then move on to whatever else I'm going to do for myself. So having those clear delineations, physical as well as mental. Stick to your schedule. I mentioned before, boundaries for yourself. You have to maintain boundaries for yourself. That has to do with sticking to your schedule. Very, very important. Let colleagues and managers know if you need to take an unexpected break. Just like if you're in the office, you want to go and drop off you're going to go to a recital, something like that, or a midday play at school. You would just tell everybody, hey, I'm going to be gone for this amount of time. I'm going to go do this thing. Same idea. Just let everybody know, but be clear about it. Turning off email and instant messaging notifications when you take a break. This is really important. It's important during the day, turn them off, but it's really, really important before you start work and after you start work. When you are not working, do your absolute best to turn off email and instant messaging notifications. In that, I mentioned before, we have a charter about how we communicate with each other. Be clear about how people should contact you outside of work or when you're away from your desk. For me, I tell people to text me. If they can't reach me, text me. Really, really simple. If somebody doesn't have your phone number to text you, then they probably shouldn't be contacting you outside of work hours. Sort of like that. So make sure that your email and instant messaging notifications are off if you are not working. If you're walking, whatever it is, turn them off if you can. Commit to only checking email and responding to texts when you're in your workspace. Goes back to what I was saying. When your workday is done, indicate you're away from the office in your email and shut down your computer. This is not as realistic as we would like because most of us are working from our home computers. So what I do personally is most of my productivity programs are through Google. My emails through Google. I use Google Docs, I use Google Sheets, etc. I have two completely separate browsers. I have a personal browser, and then I have a work browser. And things like LinkedIn, but things that are work related, all my logins are in my work browser. I can't log into LinkedIn from my personal browser, for example. So it's really important to be able to make that separation. That's one way to make that separation. There are lots of other ways to make that separation as well. You could, the latest version of Windows, as well as many versions of Mac OS, allow you to have different desktops where you can switch to a different desktop all around. Perhaps that's an answer for you. Start playing with things. Find out how you can virtually shut down your computer. Once again, I'm just checking a few things. All right. Zoom backgrounds. I'll just mention really quickly. Zoom backgrounds, yes, there are a lot online. If you have a particular background that you want, at some point I said I would really like to have a library background. I found a bunch of different ones, and then I put those in my library, and I just in my Zoom virtual background library, and just tried different ones. This is, like I said before, this is my living room. Speaking of ergonomics, I found spaces in my living room, went out to the dining room table, sat down, said, okay, this would be a perspective if somebody were sitting right here in front of me, turned around and took the photo. So it's nice to be able to bring people into your space. That helps with your interconnectedness and your collaboration, and being able to bring people into your home virtually. It makes a difference. People get to see who you are. Okay. Support your mental and physical health. Eating a healthy diet. I don't think I need to give lots of advice on this. There are lots of places to get more advice on this. You all probably had programs. You see it every day in the news. But eating a healthy diet. Taking breaks throughout the day. We talked a bit about that. It's really important to be able to switch tracks that way, to take your time, be able to switch tracks. Give your brain a little bit of a rest. Increase your level of exercise. Just a matter of getting up and walking around. I would say it's always good to increase your level of exercise if you find yourself sitting at your desk for more than 2 hours straight. Make it a point to get up and do something on a more regular basis from your desk. Maintain a normal sleep schedule. Number one, most important thing, this is the basis for everything, sleep. Get your sleep. The advice is that most adults need 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Some people need less, some people need more. Don't make that the rule of thumb. If you are having trouble sleeping as far as understanding how much time you need to sleep, I would encourage you to start running some tests. So maybe on a Friday night or a Saturday night, sometime where you don't have to be someplace the next morning, try going to bed at 9 o'clock. It's not too late, not too early. Try going to bed at 9 o'clock and don't set any alarms at all. See what time you wake up the next morning. Give that a try a few times and see. That might give you an idea of how much sleep you actually need, the length of time. And also, it'll teach you about how you wake up, what wakes you up. For me, I'm a person who wakes up with light. The light streams in, I wake up. Doesn't matter if I went to bed at 8 p.m. or if I went to bed at 3 a.m. When the light hits me, I'm up and awake. So do what you can to learn about how your body sleeps and then build a sleep schedule around that. Lots and lots of resources out there about that. Sleep hygiene is what you'd want to check. So sleep hygiene, go to Google, type it in, lots of good information. Pursue healthy leisure activities. We can't go outside. Well, we can go out, we can take walks if we want, but most of us are staying inside. Find things that get you away from work, get you out of your head. Like I said, for me, it's pleasure reading right now. I've been trying to learn ukulele, been doing lots of baking, which was already a stress reliever before all this happened. So find things to keep your mind occupied. Video games, a lot of people bristle at the idea of video games, but video games are excellent because they occupy your brain, occupy your hands. It's almost like a little vacation. I don't know that a shoot 'em up is the best way to go, but for me, Guitar Hero is the one that works really well. All right, somebody is unmuted and there's a strong background noise.
Yes, sweetie.
Okay, there we go. Thank you. Engage in active relaxation to reduce stress. I'm just checking the time, a whole lot of resources out there. I'm not going to get into all of the various things, but meditation, I like to do a meditation that is 4 breaths in through my nose, I hold it for 2 seconds, and I let it out for 8 breaths through my mouth. Some people like to do 5 in, 5 out. 5 breaths. I'd say take 5 of those breaths. Figure out what your count is, 4, 2, 8, 5 and 5, whatever. 5 times, just in and out 5 times. Try to do that at least twice a day, if not 3 times a day. That is also a really great way to transition between personal life and work life. You come in, you sit down at your desk, do your 5 deep breaths, you move on. At the end of your day, you do the same thing. You take your 5 deep breaths after you get everything settled, and you leave. It's a way to sort of clear your head and clear your mind about the thing that you just accomplished and the thing you're just moving into. So that's one. That's a great suggestion, Lena. Thank you. Stretching more. Stretching is really, really wonderful. You don't have to leave your desk to stretch even. Some people can stretch in their chairs, but get up and do some of those things we learned in gym class in 4th grade or 5th grade. Maybe do some arm circles, bend down and try to touch your toes, lean from side to side, those sorts of things. If I were there with you, I'd stand up and do all these things and show you, but unfortunately I'm not. I wish I could be. Reducing alcohol consumption. It's really easy for us to, excuse me. There we go. Katralia, can you hear me again?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay.
So reduced alcohol consumption. This is something to be very cognizant of right now. We're at home, things probably feel a little more relaxed in general. You don't have to drive anywhere, you don't have to walk anywhere. So some of us might want to, and I have to admit, I have done this from time to time. You're done work, you run right over to the liquor cabinet, pour yourself a little bit of scotch or something and sit down. That's fine. 2 drinks a day, that's fine. But resist the urge to get completely, to go beyond 2 drinks a day. That's not good. Because we're home and because we are enabled to just indulge ourselves, that doesn't mean that we should indulge ourselves. Just looking to see these comments. Computer games don't help some people. It's great. That's all right. That's all right. Try some different things. Try maybe learning that instrument that you didn't know, that you didn't have time to learn before. Use that extra commute time to do something. That's my recommendation. Learn card games, magic tricks, those sorts of things. Continuing mental health. Understand that solitude of working remotely can impact your mood and emotional state. Absolutely. It's really important to have somebody to talk to. If you get really, really down in the dumps, you could call one of your coworkers. There are crisis hotlines. Just type in crisis hotline. There are some that are specific to LA County, and they'll be able to help you and get you any kind of resources that you might need. If you feel suicidal, absolutely call 911. No question. If you think at all about killing yourself, or you hear somebody saying that, call 911 for you, call 911 for them. Just want to make that very, very clear. But it makes complete sense to feel isolated and to feel like you're alone, especially if you are physically alone. But remember that the whole planet, billions of us, have gone through this experience. We are all dealing with COVID-19 right now. All of us have had some version of being sequestered at home. Just remember that. Remember that you are not alone in this situation. If you're accustomed to contact and collaboration with others, make sure it continues. Zoom is wonderful. Zoom allows us to be in contact with large groups of people, many, many different people in very short times. It's not like, so I have this meeting right here, I'm talking to you all. Well, in another hour, I can get online with my exercise group and we can do the workout. And then an hour after that, I'm gonna get on the call with my family. These 3 things would be really difficult to do in person all in the same day. So take advantage of that. Converse with people, look at people, talk to them. There are groups out there like Toastmasters groups that are now going virtual. My church, we decided to go virtual during this period, and other people from other churches all around the country started joining. There are people who haven't visited in years, and they were so excited because they could hop on. So think about that. Use this as an opportunity to get in touch with and talk to other people that you wouldn't usually talk to, because you actually do have more time to build relationships and to tend to those relationships. Prioritize the need to maintain relationships. If you're energized by them, especially if you're energized by them. You know what you like to do, you know who you like to talk to, put it on the calendar. Just double checking this chat again. Okay. Just one moment. Okay, somebody mentioned that they're battling a bit with insomnia. If you're battling with insomnia, definitely call your physician, find out what the recommendations are, and start to go through the process. You probably think, all right, I know I have insomnia, I know what's happening, but journal it, as this person said they're doing, journal it and get it down, because you're going to be able to go to your physician and you're going to be able to say, it started this time, it ended this time, on these nights I was up this long, I wasn't able to fall asleep until this time. Get all those things down. Keep a journal. Also take note of what you think is bothering you, maybe what you're dreaming about. I know for the first month of this whole crisis, I was dreaming about things like people standing too close to me. So take note of those things. Insomnia is not an easy thing to always solve, but take the steps. Again, there are things you can't control and things you can control. The small things you can control are taking notes and making steps towards curing insomnia.
Terrell,
right? Yes.
just want to interject here. EAP is available to all of our employees through MHN. There are 6 no-cost counseling sessions that can be available to each employee, whether they are benefited or not benefited. That it is also available to anyone living in their households, as well as to eligible, the spouse, the children, whomever that needs it. And so I will be at the end of this webinar, I will be putting up the number for EAP, the 1-800 number, and encouraging you to call them, because they are providing virtual counseling sessions. So that you don't have to go in anywhere. You can actually have family counseling sessions if you need to online. All right, so I just want to interject that as well as a viable resource that we can definitely use at this time.
And I want to add to that no one sees or knows that you contact EAP or you use EAP. All that anybody will see is the number of people. That 6 people from this particular site used it. That's it. Correct me if I'm wrong, Katralia, but
Correct.
Okay, great. Well, we're almost done. So, and I've said a lot of this, but I still want to go ahead and cover off on it. Determining how you will counteract feelings of loneliness or isolation and maintain health and productivity. We talked about a lot of that, but try to make it's all about action. It's about documentation and action. Putting it down and saying, I am going to do this. I am going to do a 20-minute workout every other day. I am going to call my parents or my children, whoever, once a week on Sundays. Like I said, I have a standing appointment with my family. These sorts of things. So really know what you need to combat your loneliness and isolation, and think about other people too. The people who you know are home alone, reach out to them. Just about every conversation I've had, and Katralia, I think you and I did, I try to ask the person, whether it's a new person or whether it's somebody I know well, how are you doing with everything right now? And just listen, just have that conversation. You don't know what's going to come up. Sometimes people just need to have an ear. Just ask them before you start your conversation, how are you doing with all this right now? Let the person talk. We all have more time, so why not? Why not use it? Virtual coffee breaks, virtual lunches, wonderful way to catch up with each other. Again, I'm seeing some really, really wonderful chatter here in the group chat. You guys who work in different departments, and I see you saying, oh yeah, I wish we worked together, those sorts of things. Now you can work just as closely with them as the person who used to sit next to them in the office. Get them on Zoom, talk to them, get their information, have lunch together, I know I just said not to go crazy with drinking, but have quarantinis if you feel so inclined. There are lots of things you can do. So get to know people. There are opportunities here. That's the silver lining. Virtual coffee breaks, virtual lunches. Consider using collaboration tools. That's both personally and in the workplace professionally. Personally, I like to use WhatsApp. That's one of the tools I like to use to keep the family together, and we talk and chat and send memes, those sorts of things. Work-wise, that's a little more limited because it's all about what the district will allow you to use and what you all are comfortable with. I really like Slack. Slack is one of my favorite ones. I use that for both my nonprofit and for-profit stuff. It's really, you can send photos, send recordings, make calls, quick conversation, those sorts of things like that. So that's my personal recommendation. I really love those guys. Increasing interactions, communicate more rather than less. Like I was just saying, this is a really great opportunity because everybody's at home. They're readily available. They can go from one meeting to the next pretty seamlessly. It's a great opportunity to start communicating with people you wouldn't typically communicate with. And this last one is great. If you feel lonely, consider setting up a support group of friends and colleagues. It's always an option. Hey, I really enjoyed talking to you. I think that you would enjoy talking to this person too. How about the three of us get together? Pretty simple. All right. Be patient and empower your colleagues. Empathetic with your colleagues. Keep your assumptions in check. This is a whole seminar that I love to do. Keep your assumptions in check. Take people's words for what they are. They are words. We don't all communicate exactly the same way. We don't use all the same words to convey the same ideas, but take the attitude out of it. You may hear somebody say something in a certain way. You may hear a certain tone in their voice. Take it for the words. This is what the person said. I'm going to trust that you are saying that. You all work together. You all have the same goals in the end. If you have to see somebody every day for 10 years, chances are you're going to put your best foot forward, and you mean to have the best intentions. You don't want to piss off the person who sits next to you, who can make your life miserable for the next several years. So give people the benefit of the doubt and assume that they have good intentions with what they're saying. Be responsive to requests. A lot of people say with email, 24 hours. I like to, for the phone, an hour. It's up to you. Again, back to that communication charter, how you're going to communicate within your team. When it comes to being responsive to things and having communication, when you have 4 communications about the same thing and somebody's not getting the point, I recommend that right after that 4th communication, you pick up the phone. It's just, you'll go crazy going back and forth. Pick up the phone or get on Zoom. Show sensitivity and understanding. Like I said, give people the benefit of the doubt. All of our situations are different. Some of us have toddlers running around. Some of us have dogs. Some of us, like I said, have relatives who might have dementia or Alzheimer's who are around. Ask for assistance when you need it. I said it before, I'll say it again. Ask for what you need. Ask for what you want. Communication is key right now. We are all here to support each other, and We cannot get through all of these things without supporting each other. Very, very important. And lastly, be patient with yourself. It's all about compassion. Be compassionate with yourself. Don't say or do anything towards yourself that you wouldn't say or do towards your best friend. So that's self-talk, that's actions, whatever it is. Lastly, appreciate the benefits that come with remote work. Like I said, there's a silver lining here. You get to enjoy those extra, if you're like me, extra 3 hours a day from commuting. You all live in Southern California, so I imagine you have a lot of commute time, but enjoy that. You have that time to learn something new, to do something more. You have the opportunity to talk with more people. People are getting acclimated to this teleconferencing. So you can talk to people and be face-to-face with them. Know that you're not alone. Like I said, the whole world has experienced some version of this. Keep asking yourself, how do I protect myself from feeling lonely or isolated and stay healthy and productive? Have a plan. You don't have to have 12 pages of a plan. Just sit down for an hour and just think to yourself, here's what I'm going to do. Here's how I'm going to be healthy. Here's how I'm going to be productive. Tools and strategies to help me feel connected. This goes back to talking to each other, asking each other, what do you use? What do you use? How do you get through these dilemmas? How do you make this kind of thing happen? Talk to each other, find out what works, what doesn't work, and how to use things better. A lot of people are frustrated with Zoom and GoToMeeting, things like that, because they don't know how to use it. Ask somebody how to use it. And provide assistance when asked. Again, it's ask for what you need. I just keep saying it, ask for what you need. All right, Catralia, that's what I have.
Okay, this is great. Thank you so much, Terrell. I've gotten a lot of great comments here. I do, however, want to send the poll now. I'm launching it, and it should be going out to everyone. I very much need your feedback. So if it's 5 questions, if you could quickly answer those for us, I would greatly appreciate it. I do plan to have more relevant webinars to help us through this, through this situation, as we have received the emails regarding remote working lasting through the fall semester. And I'm hoping that's just will not be the absolute case. So yes, if you could continue to complete that. At the end of this, I'm going to also put the 1-800 number for MHN, that is Managed Health Net. Again, for those who may have missed my earlier comments, each of you, no matter what your employment status is with the district, are able to use this service. And we all have 6 sessions of free, I won't say at cost, it's paid for by the district, it's a part of the contracts with MHN for professional counseling. You just need to call that number and set up a virtual online counseling session for any incident in any situation. Now, please be aware that's not 6 sessions for the year, that is 6 sessions per incident. Meaning you may have a marriage and family issue. You may then have something related to COVID-19 issues. You may have a grief or a loss issue. Those are different incidents. And so you get 6 sessions per incident. That's you, any of your household members, whether they're related to you by blood or marriage or not. They can also get in on this benefit. The last thing I want to also remind you of as you finish this poll is that there will be for a manager, supervisors, team leads, administrators, deans, those who are keeping teams moving. There will be another webinar by Terrell this afternoon at 1 o'clock. If you are interested, some of you have already done so, but if you are interested, please send me an email if you did not already receive the information about how to link in. It will be another Zoom call, so and it's going to start at 1. It will end at 2:30. So if you would just shoot me an email at the end of this entire process of what we're doing. I'm going to share my screen now, and hopefully you will get this while I'm doing everything. I want to make sure everyone gets the information. All right, there you go. All right. Okay, so with that, I want to again thank you, Terrell. This was some great information, some notes I have taken for myself.
You're very welcome.
Yes, so we're going to close out. If you have other questions for Terrell, just shoot them in the chat, and I will, circle back to you with any answers that I can provide.
And I'll keep my chat open for the next 5 or 6 minutes.
Perfect.
As well, if that's okay with you.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm not touching it.
All right.
Thank you to both of you.
Oh,
thank you
you're
all.
very welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Very helpful. Very helpful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Amazing job. Thanks.
Thank you. Let me log off. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
God
Sheila,
bless.
is,
Bye.
is the recording going to be posted
Yeah,
somewhere?
yes.
What's the
If I cannot get it onto the onto my webpage on the district site, I will definitely be sending it out. Maybe through one of the large shared file softwares or apps, but I'll be getting that out.
I can't receive something that big, but I really want to watch the early part of it.
Yes, the shared file that the district has is called Excelion, and it's for large files. And it allows you, it compresses it and allows you to open it on your computer and see it. So,
Okay, so you'll send a link then.
yes,
Got it.
it'll be a link. It will be a link. Yes.
That'd be great. Thank you.
You're
That's great.
welcome.
Where will you be posting that link? I have some colleagues who couldn't get in.
Yeah, okay. If I can get it posted quickly, because I don't have access to my webpage on the district's website, but I will publish it if I am not able to get that handled right away.
So it'll
With a
just be
link.
called, the same name that it
The
has.
same name, yes. It'll be the same name.
So what I don't know is how you'll know whom to email. Are you just going to email it to the whole district? or
It
to
would
the
be,
people who
because
are
it's
here?
valuable information for all of us.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank
You're
you so
very
much.
welcome. Yeah.
You like your hair?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Miss
All right.
Petralia.
Oh, you're so welcome, Esther. All right, I see the emails are coming in.
Catralia.
Oh, you're so welcome. All right.
Just wanted to know if we can see this after you finish, because I wasn't able to be in the meeting the whole time. I had to be answering questions for students.
Oh, absolutely. No, I will make sure to get it sent out as a link, a recap link. So for those who were not able to attend or could only attend part of it, they'll be able to go back and view it. I'll also reattach the PowerPoint participant guide so that everyone can access it that way as well.
Awesome, thank you.
You're very welcome. Yes.
What's happening this afternoon at 1 o'clock?
1 o'clock is for managers, supervisors, team leads, deans, administrators, anyone. It's a training for how to effectively manage your teams during this COVID-19 disruption remotely.
Ms.
Have you
Walker?
taken a look at the 3CSN group? I've been getting emails from them, and they have webinars almost all day long. Do you know much about them?
No, I do not. You can send me their information if you like. That would be a great resource for those, especially who were not able to attend today. But remember, the district has a contract with Managed Health Net, and this is a service that's provided with our EAP provider, which is Managed Health Net.
Okay, I'll send you information on their.
Okay, awesome. Please do.
Ms. Walker, wondering if you can post your email for us, please?
Oh, sure thing. Okay.
Thank you.
Let me bring it up. I thought everybody had my email.
It got forwarded to me, the email, so I didn't get to see your email.
Okay, it's very simple. It's just Walker,
Okay.
the letter K, the letter C, at laccd.edu.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. All righty, I think we're there. All right, let's see, we're down to 61. Any other questions while we're hanging on here?
I wanted to make sure I didn't miss anybody. I think I got all the private questions.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. So Katrina, can
Yes.
we just touch base very quickly when this call is done?
Absolutely.
Or we can do it here when everybody else drops off. It's
Okay. That'll work. That
you.
should work. Okay. All right, we're down to 54. I'm just making sure if there's any other questions, or I heard someone come on. All right. Yeah, this was a very good turnout. I'm so happy. This is quite phenomenal, actually.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm part of the Beatles. All these people.
Yeah, it worked out very well. I'm looking forward to this.
Good, good. Jim is asking if you're going to post the chat.
Yes, I will be saving this as a file. I'm getting a lot of emails still. All right, let me put this here on my Zoom account.
I have a question. Is this from Los Angeles Southwest College?
It's from this is from the district office for all of the 9 campuses and the district office employees, all 10,000 plus.
Oh.
Yeah, for every one of us.
Because I'm having a problem. I'm frustrated from using Zoom account to attend to my students. I just finished a clinical class a few minutes ago.
Oh, okay. And what's bothering you about it?
Yeah, my Zoom account is not taking, so I have to go to a private Zoom account that I paid for this morning, because it keeps kicking me out every 40 minutes with my students.
Oh,
It's very frustrating.
Oh yeah, that is. You need to contact IT like right away, because they are the ones that will make sure to help you with this. I was on the emails with them this morning, just getting some last things, you know, clarified as well. And so just be aware that, you know, it's important that you reach out to them. They are the ones that will provide you with whatever you need. They control this. Okay, so trying to go through anyone else is not going to help you. They are definitely the ones that are the gurus as to how to get you what you need. Now, it may require that you will have to meet or get an approval from your manager or supervisor for whatever it is that, you know, they determine you're going to need. But trust me, it is the way to go.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Talia, I didn't mention this earlier. There's still
Yeah.
quite a few people on, but you might want to make the announcement the next time around. With people being home so much, some people are in abusive relationships, and
Oh, very true.
they need to be able to they need to ask for help. If they're in an abusive relationship and they don't have any respite, then they need to reach out for help. And
Yes.
I'm not 100% sure what the numbers are down there, but it's worth reminding people, I think.
Okay. Yeah, that would be very important, especially if we're going all the way through to June. I mean, to the end of the fall, December, and remote working. Yeah, how to get help is going to be extremely critical.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I will.
You're
I will
very
be
welcome.
sure to get them.
Yeah, I usually mention that, and I just forgot. Let's see. I'm looking, and y'all are part of Los Angeles County, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Let's see here. I'm checking to make sure my chat will save. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. And I think we've gotten the majority of the questions answered.